10 warning signs that you may be drinking too much. Not in any particular order, but they're all of relevance. Most of them, if you're a heavy drinker, you'll have experienced. I certainly did, and I didn't realise when I was crossing over from heavy drinker to alcoholic. This is the crux of the matter, really. But one of the first things I noticed was I was being more tired over time. Hangovers were getting a bit worse, bad heads, and became more lethargic, to be honest. I didn't really have much zest in my life. I was like maybe plodding along rather than running along. That was one of the first things I started to notice, but I just put that down to maybe a bit of age and maybe a bit of stress, working hard, new baby in the family, all that sort of thing. But I noticed that probably about early 30s, maybe 30s, yeah, late 20s, early 30s. The second thing I noticed, and my wife did as well, ex-wife, was that we were both bringing in quite a bit of money. I never seemed to have any spare money. So obviously a lot of it was going on booze, wasn't it? It's amazing how much you spend. And on reflection, I worked out I was probably spending many years ago, over £1,000, maybe £1,000 to £1,500 a month just on drink. So I was in the police in central London, so we used to get the underground back and forwards to work. There's no travel costs there, no taxi costs, anything, just the underground, and that was it. So it was all going on drink, wasn't it? All extra money. So all the overtime I worked was just going on the booze, to be fair. So you start to feel it in your pocket. That's another indicator you're drinking too much. Anxiety was my main issue. It has been throughout the whole of my drinking time, to be honest with you. I get very anxious about every situation. Even when I was younger, I used to worry more if I had a lot to drink. Although alcohol is supposed to make you less stressful, in time it makes you much more anxious. Anxiety will creep up on you and you'll start to worry about tiny things that would never normally bother you. And that was a main issue with me over all of the time I drank. And it got worse, it got more acute. As I drank more and I became more ill. So that's another thing to watch out. See how you're feeling, your general mental health in a way. That's a big factor. And also the way you look. You look in the mirror and you think, God, you look rough. Your skin's a bit sallow, your complexion's dull, your eyes are a bit red. You just don't look healthy. Your hair isn't particularly good standard, and you don't look after yourself as well as you should be. You're not showering properly. Everything people like chaotic, and they become a rush when you're drinking too much. You're not spending enough time on yourself. We all know what it's like when you're busy. You've got a busy job, you've got a lot of travelling to do, you've got kids, you've got a wife, you've got a house to sort out, you've got a dog, got a car, all that sort of thing. You've got to take time for yourself, and you don't take time for yourself when you're drinking. All you're thinking about is the next drink. So you'll notice your appearance will change. You'll not be brushing your teeth for as long. All these little things add up, and people can tell. And you end up with bad breath, and you smell of alcohol, all this sort of thing. Now, another one which I cottoned onto quite early was that I had an eagerness to drink, to finish work. I used to love my work, but as time went on, I was thinking, God, I wish this shift would end. So I'd get the booze out, get the pub and feel better in a way. So if you had this heavy session the night before, or the day before, you need another drink, don't you? Now, people used to think that, my family used to think that I was diabetic because after a heavy session I'd get another drink and I'd feel immediately better. So it was presumed that the sugar and the alcohol would make me feel better, a bit of a lift, But it wasn't that at all. I wasn't diabetic, my body just needed the alcohol, and I sort of craved it then in those days. I was eager to finish shift, get changed, get into some civilian clothes, and wander across Regent Street into Carnaby Street and have a few drinks down there. So I knew some people who run a pub, Geordie people actually. And as soon as I had 2 or 3 drinks, I felt really good again. Mood was up and all this sort of thing. But for the previous 8 hours, 10 hours before, I'd been a bit glum, I'm not saying that was in the early days, but as time went on, that changed a lot for me. And the actual feeling of a bit of depression maybe even came in, And another thing I noticed was I had quite a good tolerance, high tolerance to alcohol. But do you need more alcohol to get the same effect? That's another warning sign. If you used to have 5 or 6 pints and you felt great, that was time to go home, then fair dues. But when you start to want double that, and you're starting to feel like a drink when you had a day off and early in the morning, all this sort of thing, that's a very, very dangerous time. Your eagerness to drink will change. When that changes, you really got to look at yourself and go and see a doctor, or, you know, think about cutting down a little bit, because that was a major factor for me when I look back. When you're in the middle of all this, you don't realise what's going on, to be fair, you know. You become more selfish about your life, you become more selfish about your drinking. Maybe you hide a few bottles, a few cans here and there, and when you get asked to go to places, go shopping or go to a sporting event, you'll always want to go somewhere where there's alcohol. I mean, alcohol's very widely available, but you'll tend to steer clear of family events which don't have any alcohol involved, or where you'll be frowned upon. You tend to be more of I was a bit more of a loner when I wanted to drink. I wouldn't go to family do's and things. I don't feel well, I'm working, I'd make an excuse up, thought I'd go for a drink. Like a family dinner party, I think, I can't be doing that. Or if I did go, I'd have to have some drinks before I went, and make sure I left before closing time. Your whole world will start to centre around yourself, and around alcohol. You become very, very selfish. Oh, that's another big indicator for me. And also within that, your family will notice you're drinking a bit more. My dad used to say to me years ago, "Are you sure you're okay to drive back to London when I visited the northeast? Because you drank a lot last night. As soon as you got here, you started to drink. We heard you open a couple of bottles in the bedroom," all this sort of thing. People are aware of what you're doing. You think you can hide it, but you can't. And now I'm sober, I can see the drinkers. You can spot them a mile off, because I've been one. You can see them in the airport queues with the hungover, a bit shaky to get to the airport bar, and you know, in the queue and waiting to get a drink, and they can't wait. As soon as they sat down for an hour, they're fine. It's all happy and jolly again, isn't it? And life's wonderful. You know, people always say, "Oh, it's a good life if you don't weaken. Get yourself a few pints, you'll feel better." It's a load of rubbish in the long term. In the long run, you'll feel much worse. In my case, I was hospitalised and nearly lost my life through it. But these are the warning signs you need to be looking out for. Now, your mental health in general will deteriorate. With me, I became, as I said earlier, very, very anxious. Everything was a problem. I was anxious about travelling, I was anxious about people, I was anxious about opening the post. I was nervous driving. I didn't drink and drive, but even the next day I felt a little bit just detached. Couldn't concentrate properly. Then I started to get a bit depressed and all this sort of thing. When you get these warning signs, this is the sign of what I would call stage 3, really, where you drink and you know you're doing yourself some harm. Now, when you change from that to alcoholism, if you've got these warning signs and if you don't do anything about them, you don't seek some help or try and cut down yourself, get some family help, get some help from the doctor if you can, get some help from people like myself or other people on these channels, counsellors, whatever you want to do, whatever suits you. The AA didn't suit me, but it might suit other people. Start and speak about it and realise you've got a problem. Be true to yourself, because there's other warning signs. There's a lot of them. But these are the main ones that I could focus on. I can reflect back and think, maybe I should have acted on that. It's too late now, but I'm sober now. As the old quote goes, you can't turn the clock back, but you can wind it up again. And I've wound it up again on double speed. That's why I'm here to help you. So look at yourself, look at your life, look at the way you're acting. Maybe count the units you're having. It all sounds a bit boring, this, but it isn't, because if you become ill with alcohol, it's it's a long, slow, very painful death. And I was at death's door, and the 10 years leading up to my hospitalisation, such like were torture. But the last 2 to 3, I was living I was just living in squalor, with rats running around the flat, no heating, no electricity, no life. Getting drink delivered, trying to get relatives to deliver drink, not eating properly, malnourished, ended up with liver problems, ascites fluid, spontaneous bacterial peritonitis, seizures, coughing up blood, every morning, throwing up bile, all this sort of thing. That's what happened in the end. The crossover happens very quickly. So if you're feeling these warning signs coming on, get yourself some help, contact me, contact other people, and start looking after yourself. If you benefit from the channel, then please subscribe. Remember to click the bell button so you get notifications of new videos. And get involved in the conversations. There's a lot of people on here who are very, very knowledgeable about alcohol, about treatments as well. and you know, join the community, because it's great. It's opened my eyes to so many people are suffering, and let's do this together, because if the more people are involved in this, the more we'll help each other, because I didn't turn to anybody, I was left alone, and that's another thing, isolation becomes a problem. Anyway, have a good day, try and stay sober. If you can't, tomorrow's another day, but try one day at a time. That's a huge step for a lot of people, and I'll speak to you all soon.